All right, in this tutorial, I'd like to show you how to begin with a shape like this cube and then be able to generate a shape similar to this one using either the Boolean difference command or the trim command. So I've gone ahead and isolated these objects. I am now going to type show, and I want you to see what I have here. So more or less in the middle, I have my cube, and then you can see I went ahead and constructed a cylinder, and then I was able to use the Boolean difference to then subtract this cylinder from the cube and arrive at this shape. And then over here on the left-hand side, I was able to use the trim command. So I was able to take a circle and use it to trim out this area. And then I'm going to close it up because I may want to have a surface there. So let me go ahead and do that. And what I want to do is basically just take these two objects here. I'm going to move them out of the way. And I'll do the same thing with the objects over here. Let me just take these two, move them out of the way, and I'll go ahead and get started. All right, so with this cube, what I'd like to do, let me just make a copy because I would like to show you how to make copies also. It's really quick here. Notice how when I hover over the red arrow there for my axis, it says that I can tap the Alt key to make a copy, and that's what I'm going to do right now. So I'm going to start to click and drag, and then I'm going to tap the Alt key, A-L-T, tap it, and release my mouse key, and I have a copy. All right. What I'd like to do now is really focus on the surface here because I want to generate a cylinder that is on that similar surface. So I'm going to double click perspective view so I can see all of my views. And then what I find to be helpful is typing ZEA so I can see everything in all four viewports. So zoom extends all, and that's a lot of information. That's okay. I'm going to zoom in here. And I really want to focus on this cube, and I can see that in all the views. So now in this front view, that's the one I really want to focus on. I'm going to zoom in right here. And the reason for that is because I'm going to click off of the cube, and then I'm going to hold down Control Shift, and I'm going to hover over the faces. And you can see when I hover over this face in the perspective view, that's the one that's highlighted in the front view. So that's really where I want to focus. So I'm going to release the Control Shift keys. And then I'm going to come over here to my front view, zoom, and then pan down a little bit because I want to draw a cylinder right here. So I'm going to come over to my icons. I'm going to cascade the solid creation menu, and I'm going to click on cylinder. And from here, I'd like to draw a cylinder, and it says, where is the base of the cylinder? Well, the base is going to be on the midpoint. And the reason I'm able to pick the midpoint is because I have my object snaps turned on. And then over here in my object snap settings, you can see that midpoint is checked on. So I'll simply click here, and then I'll bring my cursor out and give it a radius right here. I'll just give that a click. And then I need to give it the end. So I can't do it in the front view. So I can come over here to the top view, and I can also go to the perspective view and set it there. But I'm going to do it here in the top view, zoom in, and I want to extend it past the cube. So I'm just going to click right here, and I have myself a cylinder. All right, the next step for me to do is use the Boolean difference command. So let me double click on the perspective view and just orbit right here. And then from my icons, I'm going to click right here where it says Cascade Solid Tools. I'm going to give that a click. And then it's the second icon over where it says Boolean difference. Basically means I'm going to be subtracting. So I give that a click, and I can see in my command line, if I were to type Boolean difference, that's the command I would get. And I may type it the next time. So it's now prompting. It says select surface or poly surfaces to subtract from. I'd like to subtract from this cube, and I will enter now. It says select surface or poly surfaces to subtract with. and I'm going to subtract with the cylinder. And you'll notice that it is currently set to delete input equals yes. That means that once I pick the cylinder, it's going to delete it. If you wanted to, you can always click on that and set it to no, and it would leave the cylinder. But in my case, I don't need to see it. So I'm just going to click on it, and then I'm going to enter. So it has given me the shape that I wanted, and it has subtracted using the Boolean difference of that cylinder from the cube. So that works out real nice. Now, here's the other way to do it. And I have drawn a circle, and then I'm going to use that to trim. But let me go ahead and take that circle and delete it, and I'll start all over here. All right, so just like I did before, I want to be able to draw a circle, and I want to do this from the front view. So let me double click on perspective, and I'm going to show you something that's really nice here. I'm going to click on this object, and then I'm going to type Z for zoom, S for selected, A for all. So it's going to zoom on the selected object or objects right now as soon as I enter. And that's all I'm going to see in all 4 of the views. So that's really nice. So I'm going to click away from the object, and now I'm going to hold down Control Shift, hover, and I can see that that is the face that I want to be working with, and I'm going to do this in my front view. So removing my hands from Control Shift, coming over here to the front view, pan this down, and I'd like to draw a circle. So I come back to my icons, and I'll click on the circle, and right now it's set to center radius. You can always look at the cascade menu for circle. There's a few other options, but this one's going to work out just fine. So circle, center, radius. So this is the center, which is the midpoint of that edge, and then this will be the radius right here. Once I've done that, the next thing to do is trim it. So I'm going to type this in, T-R-I-M, trim, enter. It says select the cutting objects, and this is going to be my cutting object. And I'll go ahead and enter. And now it says select object to trim. Well, I want to trim this inside portion, so I just have to pick the edge. So I click right here on that edge, and it takes that away. And you can see that in the perspective view, how it's done that. And then I'll go ahead and enter to terminate the command. And I don't need this circle anymore, so I'm going to delete that. And now I'm going to double click on perspective view, and you can see that it looks very similar to the other object, but it's missing that surface, that curved surface. So I'm going to put that in right now. And to do that, I'm going to come back over here to my icons, and I'm going to hover over this one. And I've already selected it before, that's why I'm seeing it. But if you don't, go ahead and click on the Cascade Surface Creation. And when you do that, you'll hover over here to this icon, where it says Surface from 2, 3, or 4 edge curves. I click on that. I look at my command line, and it says that command is Edge Surf. I'll keep that in mind. And now it's a matter of picking my 4 curves. And by the way, a line in Rhino is considered a curve. So I'll pick this curve, and then I'll pick this one, and I'll orbit around. This will be my 3rd curve, and then this is my 4th curve. And just like that, it creates the surface, which is great. However, if I were to take my solid here and move it out of the way, you'll see that there's not connected because I've created them independent of each other. So I'll undo and bring it back, and I have one more command I need to do here, and that is the Boolean union command. So I'm just going to select all, or not all, but both of my objects. I'll just window them like this. And then I come back over here to my icon, and it currently is set to Boolean union. And if it was not, just cascade to that solids tool, and then you would select it, Boolean union. Click on it, And now what it's done is it has unioned all of the surfaces. To double check that, looks like it is done. But to double check, click on it and then just move it. And if it moves as one, then you know that you have unioned that. So I guess I did a Boolean union here, and over on the other side, I used the Boolean difference. Along the way, I did also use the trim command, but I just wanted to show you a couple of different ways to create shapes like that. Now, that was just one shape. I can do other things here as well. So if I go back to my other views like that, I select my cube, I'm going to type ZSA so that it zooms to just that selected object in all of my viewports. I'll enter. So there's the cube. I know that I have my front view and I've been doing a lot of things in the front, but now I'm going to switch over to the top and watch this. I will draw a line. And to draw a line, I can simply type line and enter. And I'll start the line somewhere over here and I'll put the line right there. And then I'll go ahead and use that to trim. And if I click on it, you can see there's the line down at the bottom, just so you know where it is. And then I'll type trim again here, and then select cutting object. This is my cutting object, enter. And then what is it that I want to trim away? I want to trim away this corner. So I just pick on this edge and notice how it's trimmed it. Now I can't see it. Let me go ahead and enter. And then there's the line. I don't need that anymore, but I just want you to see where that is. And that's what I've trimmed out. So I'll swing over to this side, double click my perspective view. I'll go ahead and delete that line. It's currently selected, so just tap the delete key and I have my object. And again, if I want to, I can put a surface on here or I can leave it open. It all depends on what it is that you're trying to accomplish. In this case, I'm going to see if I can use my command called cap because these are four simple edges. Let's see if this will work. So I'm going to type cap and enter. And it says select objects to cap. I just want to pick this object and I enter. And because it was a very simple surface, in other words, it was just four straight edges, it capped it real nice. So it wasn't complex. Otherwise, I would have used my edge surf, but this worked out real nice. So just wanted to show that to you. And then one last thing before I go, let me draw another cube over here. Different shape, maybe. Make it a little bit higher like that. There we go. And I'm going to look at this from my top view. Zoom out. I know that the rectangle is right here. Now I'm going to draw a curve. So I'm going to come over here and that would be a curve. Yep. Let me just cascade that out so you can see this. So that allows me to draw a curve and it says control point curve or curve through points. Either one doesn't matter for now. So I'm just going to click on that icon. Up at the top, you can see it says curve. So I'm just going to draw a curve from here. Take it there, bring it in like this, and then right there. And then right click, I have my curve. I actually just want to move it in a little bit. I could also click on the points here and bring that out like that. And I want to use that to trim. So I'm going to type in trim, select the cutting object, this one, enter. And I think I want to trim this part out. Done. And then enter to terminate the command, take the line, delete it because I don't need it anymore. And then let's see what this looks like in perspective view. There we go. That's the shape. And now if I needed to close it, let's see, what could I do? Let's see if I can use cap. I'll type cap, select it, enter. Doesn't want a cap. So I have to use the edge surf command. So edge surf. And I don't need to type it all. It starts to show up and I'll just click on it. And now I select my curves. So I have 1, 2, 3, and 4. And there we go. And then the last thing I should do is Boolean union because these objects are still not one, as you can see. So undo that. And then I'll use a crossing window like this. And then type in Boolean. And you can see as soon as I start typing that in, it shows me all of the commands that begin with that letter or that word, Boolean. So I'm just going to click on Boolean Union and then enter or escape, and then click on the object and move it. See if they all move together. They sure do. And I have myself a new solid. All right, that's it for now. Thanks.